Maka Akinteye, and here with me is Felicia Odumosu, and also our guest speaker, Linda Uneze. So I'm going to introduce her right now. Linda is the managing partner and co-founder of Maurice Zandra Solutions. Linda is a certified human resource practitioner, leader, and facilitator specialized in turning concepts into profitable company strategies for optimal productivity. She's the managing partner and co-founder of Maurice Zandra Solutions, an HR consulting firm with clients such as General Electric, which is in healthcare, Next Oil, African Capital Alliance, Ajax, Transcorp Group, Energy Quest, Genesis Group, Obasanjo Farms, Elizade, and others. Before joining Maurice Zandra Solutions, she worked with Environmental Accord and Environmental and Sustainability Company as the Human Resource Manager, and MTN Nigeria in the Finance Department. Linda has an MBA from Manchester Business School and a BA from Anambra State University, where she graduated with first-class honors. She has taken some courses with Harvard Business School and Chartered Institute of Personnel Development, CIPD, UK. Linda is certified by the Human Resource Certification Institute, the HRPL, USA, as a professional in human resource, and by Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Nigeria. She's a full member of the MCIPM. She also has the Human Resource Practitioner's license as well as a professional diploma in human resource management, both from CIPM. Linda is passionate about solving real-life issues and helping the youth discover their purpose. In this regard, she is a member of the Institutional Development Committee, CIPM, a gold mentor on Manchester Spring Mentoring, and a part of the external faculty of POISE Nigeria. Please make welcome Linda Uneze as she starts the session.
Welcome, Linda. It's good to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure being here, and it's also an honor. So I would like to start by sharing my screen. So if you can see my screen, I would need someone to just say yes.
Yes, we can.
We can.
Awesome. So yes, thank you for that introduction. I would be talking about how you can develop and manage work relationships today. So taking you through the content, I would set the pace or set the scene by telling you what relationship is and work relationship. And then I would also talk about the types of work relationships that exist within organizations. And then we will discuss how you can build positive work relationships to ensure that you're always productive in the work environment. Then I would also take you through 7 tips of how you can manage the relationships that you have developed so you can also ensure sustainability. And we will close out by talking about the 7 ways of how you can play fair. So when we think of relationship, what comes to mind? Basically, it's the way 2 or more people or people in a group interact. But for today, our focus will be on work relationship. A lot of us, when we think of relationships, we think of relationships between spouses, between siblings, between parents and their kids. Yes, those relationships do exist, but today our focus is on work relationship. And I will give you a simple dictionary meaning of that. It's from Oxford, and it says that work relationship is between people who interact because of work, and it's also a level of cooperation sufficient to allow work to be done. So this is a simple definition of work relationship. So what are the types of work relationships that could exist within an organization? The first one is the relationship between co-workers. If you're working in an environment and there are other people also working in that environment, you're all co-workers regardless of what department you are in or they are in. Another type is team members. So if you have, using HR as an example, you have employee services, you have recruitment, you have talent acquisition. So if you're in talent acquisition, the other members in that team, you're all team members. Another type of work relationship is work friends. I'm describing these types of relationships so you can then, when we begin to describe or begin to discuss strategies on how you can build relationships and also sustain, you would know when and where to apply each of those strategies. Hence why I'm taking you through the types of work relationships. So work friends are people you build genuine friendship with in the work environment. You can discuss matters beyond work, and then even when you have some work troubles or work issues, you can take it to them. You know, there's just a group of people that you're comfortable with in your work environment. And then you have the manager-direct report relationship, what some of us will refer to as boss-subordinate relationship. That's pretty straightforward. You also have your workplace bestie. There's that one person in the environment that you would always go to vent, you know, about things happening in the environment, in the work, things that you're not happy about, things you can even do. You're going to meet them to seek for their opinion. It's just that one person in that work environment who everybody, sometimes if you're not even in a good mood or somebody needs something from you, they can easily say, you know what, I know if you go through Felicia, she's her best friend, you're likely to get a yes from her, you know. And then there is the mentor-mentee relationship. For the mentor, that's somebody that you look up to, somebody who's not necessarily like somebody whose work ethics you want to mirror. And then for the mentee, someone who the mentor basically, like a protege, somebody who you take through the growth process. You're there to guide the person. The person can meet you to discuss work-related matters and non-work-related matters, depending on the type of, depending on how close you would get. And the final one is your life friends. These are people who, beyond work, you are actually, whether you leave the organization to another organization, the friendship, you're still friends. So these are the people we call life friends. You are comfortable to tell them anything. Now, how do you build positive work relationship? The first way to build a positive work, before I start, let me even mention that this list is not exhaustive. At the end, you can add yours. But one way to build a positive work relationship is by sharing more of yourself. And what do you share? You share your expertise, you share your knowledge, you share your personality. People cannot know who you are or what you have to offer if you don't share. By sharing, people understand the things that you're comfortable to talk about. People understand the things that you have experienced, and people also know your areas, the things that you are subject matters that you're very comfortable with or you're very good at, and people can then approach you. If you don't share these things, it's not enough to have the knowledge. People would know who you are and what you can do based on what you know and the things that you share. So in what environments do you share all of this? Meetings. In every meeting you attend, try as much as you can to contribute. And I'm not saying if you don't have anything to contribute that you have to speak, but in as much as you're in a meeting and you are discussing matters that concerns the environment, in whatever way that you can bring value, you need to show it by contributing. Another place where you can contribute is within your team. Especially if you're in a new team, how do you let people understand the things that you can bring to that team? It is by sharing your personality as well, letting people know who you are so that you can build a closer and a deeper relationship. Another way is group project. And by group project, it could be interdepartmental. I remember when I was working for a telecommunication, of course, that was mentioned during the introduction, when I was working with MTN. At the time, I started my career in finance. I was in finance operations, but there was a year that we had a year-end party between 3 departments: Treasury, Procurement, and and Finance Operations. And I was in the committee. I was in charge of programming, and I was also a co-MC. Now, I would not have been given that opportunity if within my own team and within my own department, I was not in the team bonding committee, because year in, year out, I was always in the team bonding committee, and I would volunteer to be in charge of programming, and I would also MC. Now, bigger platform, they've given me that opportunity. I would not have been given that opportunity if within my little space, I did not share what I could, the value I could bring to the team. Lastly would be in corporate social events. Now that's a picture of me facilitating the gala night of GE Healthcare. This was, I think, 2 years ago. And these are the people who are standing on the stage with me, or who were standing on the stage with me, are people who were going to give awards. And in their various teams, they played fair, they showed what they could offer, and that was why they were able to stand on the stage in readiness to get awards. Another way is to speak positively about your colleagues. Always speak positively about your colleagues, regardless of whether you have something negative to say about them, or regardless of whether they are not pulling their weight. If they are not pulling their weight in the team, easily you can give them constructive feedback. Pull them aside and give that feedback in public. Try as much as you can not to discuss things about your colleague that they are not doing well. And most importantly, avoid workplace gossip. I know it is hard sometimes when you're in a team not to contribute when people are talking about other people. But if you can, as much as it, because the moment you begin to contribute, you begin to say things about other people, and sometimes it could be negative. So this you should avoid. You should also support other people's work. How do you do that? You can, in doing this, you're working directly with them. It gives them an opportunity to know you more. You're also helping them achieve their goals. In doing that, they begin to trust you. They begin to appreciate your support. And what does this do? Closer connection between you and that person. Involve others in your project. Whatever project you have been given, look for people and see how they can also, how you can, involving people in your project, you're also projecting them. And that is a good way to grow others within your team, especially if you're in a new environment. So give them a chance. This gives them a chance to get to know you better. It also, and there's also a saying that says, you gain power by giving it out. In being great, make other people great as well. Now, you also need to initiate conversations by asking questions, especially if you're in a new work environment. Remember, we're talking about how to build work relationships. Now, in asking questions, it's a great way to listen, because you ask questions to clarify. You ask questions because you want to get to know the other person. You ask questions because you also want to understand what they do in that organization or in the team, as the case may be. And by doing this, you're letting the other person share about themselves and about what they do. And it also shows them that you're interested in them. Now, what this does for you, if I know that Felicia is interested in the things that I have to say or the things that I do, I would want to go back to her to share more, because I become more comfortable around her. And what that does is it helps to open up more interactions between the two of us. Also, don't forget, in asking questions about others, you should share about yourself. So it's a two-way interaction between you and the other people, or the person, depending on who you're speaking to. Repeated interactions on communication. It is not enough to initiate a conversation and then think that you now have a good relationship with the person. No, you don't end it there. You have to ensure that you continuously engage. You continuously engage with the people who you're trying to build relationships with. So continuous interaction leads to closer connection and closer interactions as well. Participate in activities with others that don't involve work. I know that a lot of us try to project ourselves as being busy, being serious. I know it is necessary sometimes, but at the same time, if your intention is to ensure that you have a team that trusts your judgment, a team that believes in you, a team that look up to you, and they know that they can always come to you if they have non-work matters to discuss. You have to make out time for non-work activities. Have lunch in the office. If you're going for lunch, maybe you should go with one or two, team members. Try even after work, go see a movie together, go for karaoke. You don't have to do this all the time as time permits, but just create time to build, a bond with your fellow colleagues and your team members. Weekends, you can also do this weekends as well. Go see a movie, go for karaoke. In doing this, you begin to discover similar interests. Now, when you know that you have similar interests with other people, you begin to share more, basically, and it propels you towards greater and stronger friendship. Now, introduce yourself at social work events. There's a conference organized by the organization, or you have a year-end party, and there are people, you're likely to see people you've never seen before, especially if you work in a large organization. You're likely to see people you've never seen before. Go out of your way to introduce yourself. You can also apply this in conferences, in networking events that aren't organized by your organization. So I had mentioned conferences, I had mentioned retreats, and don't forget, if you don't have an elevator pitch, this is the time to begin to build one. You should always have it in the back of your head that there should be. I'm not saying you should go and be a robot as you're speaking to person A, you're saying the same thing to person B. Not necessarily, but have a pitch ready at any time. You can always I always tell people that in building an elevator pitch, you should have a beginning, the body, and the end. And as you move around in the room, you switch it. You can start from the end and, close out with the beginning, or start from the beginning and close out with the end. But have this ready. So basically, you begin to understand who you are. And the more you talk about yourself, the more confident you become. And don't forget, follow up with a question. And at the end of that meeting, always try as much as you can to send a message afterwards. If you're in a place where you attended a webinar or a conference someone spoke, you can always send a message to say, thanks for speaking to us. Or if you're just meeting someone and you're exchanging cards, you can always follow up with a message to say it was nice meeting you, And within an organization, you can always say, there could be an opportunity that presents itself that we could work together. Try as much as you can to follow up with a message. What this also does for you is that people do not forget who they did meet at the conference or the retreat, especially if you had met a lot of people. People will tend to remember who followed up with a message. Now you have formed a relationship. What is next? It's just like the next step we'll be talking about is like the client attraction phase, the client retention phase, I meant to say. So you can attract a client, but you also want to keep your clients, right? For people who liaise with customers and clients. Same when you're building relationships. You are building relationships, but at the same time, you want to ensure that the relationship you have is sustained or it is maintained, or you're trying as much as you can to manage it for greater productivity in your organization. So I'll be discussing 7 tips for managing work relationships. First one, develop and apply people skills, collaboration, clear communication, conflict resolution, and most importantly, emotional intelligence. Now, when you apply these things, what happens? with emotional intelligence, you can inflict excitement in others, you know. And when you do this, when people see you as someone who is positive, they would always want to come around you. They look forward to working with you, even in projects, their personal projects, you know, or work projects, and they're looking for people in other departments they can involve. Same goes for people who are working, because you can also apply this in other environments that are work environments. It doesn't have to be in your organization. So same goes for people who are running or who are managing organizations, and they're looking for consultants they can work with. They will definitely not only look for people who have the skills, but people who are positive thinkers, because if you're a positive thinker, you're likely to be a solution provider. So, and also in managing relationships, even though you have to interact with everyone, you also need to ensure that you protect your happiness. So you try as much as you can to avoid dream killers. And yourself, don't also be a dream killer. However you can add to people's achievements, you should do that. Do not subtract. And emotional intelligence, when applied, will help you know when to identify hidden emotions in people, even when they're, you know, telling you they're okay. And you can then know when to engage and when not to, you know, maybe you can delay that engagement. That's what EQ helps you do. And also you would know when to say no, because you can then stop pleasing people, because someone who pleases everybody pleases no one, and you may be seen as somebody who is dishonest. And I would like us to further discuss emotional intelligence, because that is a skill that is a lot of people do not even understand the power and the power of EQ. That's emotional intelligence. So second tip is for you to discover emotional intelligence. Now, this helps you to regulate yourself and empathize with others, even when you disagree with them. Now, in interacting with others with EQ, if you have an average to high emotional intelligence, it helps you to be respectful without being passive. You know, you don't have to be cowardly because you're being respectful. It helps you to be confident without being aggressive or arrogant. It also helps you to be diplomatic without being dishonest. I had mentioned that somebody who pleases everyone pleases no one. If you're going to team player A and you're saying, okay, let's say there's a conflict between two members of your team, and then while discussing with team player A, you're saying, you know, what you're doing is, you know, what you did was not wrong. You're going to team player B and you're saying, giving the same feedback. Of course, eventually they will get to find out, and when they do find out, you'll be seen as somebody who is dishonest. You don't have to blame anyone, but in being honest, you can be diplomatic. By being diplomatic, you acknowledge people's opinions, and that is why we should see exchange of ideas as a learning process rather than an avenue to win an argument. So in arguing with people, see it as an avenue for you to grow, an avenue for you to learn, an avenue for you to get to know the other party. It is not for you to win the argument, you know. And if you have this at the back of your mind, you will speak respectfully. You will acknowledge people's perspectives, even if you don't agree. You will acknowledge it, but you would then disclose yours, or you then, explain yours in a manner that is respectful without putting the other person down. The third tip is showing appreciation. Now, you cannot show appreciation if you do not understand the value your colleague is bringing to the team. So you need to seek to understand the value they will bring to the team, so that when they're bringing that value, you can identify it, very importantly. Now, you have to tell them that you appreciate them. You're awesome, thank you. You can do this verbally, you can send an email, you can send a thank you card. But what this does for you, when you're thanking people, people begin to see that, yes, their contributions to the team, you know, it doesn't matter, and they want to actually do more. So for people who are in a position of influence, the leaders, if you can, give awards. So they will begin to trust you they begin to believe in you, and this also helps to draw them closer to you. The fourth one is create time to nurture relationships. These relationships you built. This you can also apply to build relationships. You can also apply it in sustaining that relationship. So make time for social activities. I had mentioned it earlier. Be intentional about the things that you do. If you're overwhelmed, try as much as you can to outsource some of the tasks that you do. I am naturally an introvert. When I say this, people always smile and they laugh, like, how can you be? Because I don't look like one. I'm naturally introverted. But when I need to achieve something, I can be aggressive. So because I know that I need to pursue my goal and I need to achieve what I need to do. So whatever I set my mind to do, I go out of my way to get out of character. It doesn't necessarily mean that I would not be myself, right? But it just means that I become an ambivert when necessary. So being an ambivert is somebody who is sometimes extroverted, sometimes introverted, or a combination of both, depending on the situation. So over time, I have realized that I am an ambivert, but I'm more tilted towards being an introvert. So I sometimes make conscious effort to go out of, my way to be involved in some things. And the one way that I do this is to engage with people that I see being out there. They are just naturally extroverted, or they are achieving so much by, putting themselves out there, sharing and contributing. I sometimes go out of my way to say, what do you think? What do you think? I seek for their opinions to know when I am, going back to my shell, going back to being more introverted. So if you have people like that around you, they help to give you, and you seek for feedback. That's also one way to improve. And in doing that, you're also, you're getting involved in activities, you're nurturing the relationship because you are being in touch, So that's the fourth tip. The fifth is being positive, right? Stay positive no matter what in an environment. Don't be that person who, when they bring matters to you, like it will not work. They bring a solution to you, it would not work. If you're that person, I will begin to avoid you. And I'll go to somebody who will probably say, even if they think the idea would not work, they would probably say, okay, it's not a bad idea. It's a great idea. But have you considered this? So you're actually, saying, indirectly, you're saying there could be a better way. Have you considered this better way? As against saying it would not work, So be that person who is positive, that people want to, come to you. They want to come get your opinion about important matters. There's a quote I saw online by an unknown author. It says, if you stay positive in a negative situation, you win. So despite the difficult situation, be somebody who, exudes, positivism in quotes. But important, I would say, in showing how positive you are, you should not. This is one thing you should not be. Do not be a joker. There are people who, because they want you to be in a better mood, be in a better space, they're always joking. You don't want to be seen as somebody who is always joking, because people can also avoid you when they think you're always joking and you're not being honest. So for everything they're asking you, you always say, I know, don't worry, it's great, amazing, and then you're joking about it. It sometimes can come across as you being dishonest, And I'm not saying that you should not, have any form of humor or whatever. When it is time to joke, you do that sparingly. So this helps others to trust you and your judgment. And at the same time too, as long as you're being realistic about the things you're being positive about, then that's great. So manage your boundaries. Let others know when it is time to socialize and when it is time to work. Sometimes you can, blur the line, to a certain extent, but at the same time, when it is time to work, you do not want people, like I said earlier on, to see you as a joker. When it's time to work, is work. When it is time to infuse some, relaxed type of communication or some relaxed type of activities, then you do that. And the seventh tip I'd like to talk about is to listen actively. I did mention this earlier on when I was talking about getting to know people by asking questions. Now, how can you listen actively? One way that you can ensure you're actively listening is for you to receive the message. And this cannot happen if you're in an environment that does not enable interaction or communication. So you need to be in an enabling environment, an environment that allows you hear what the person is saying so that you can understand. And in understanding, that is the only way you can then provide feedback. That is the only way you can then ask questions about what they're saying to seek for clarification. That is the only way you can give comments and you can contribute. And in doing all of this, let's not forget that we also need to remember what has been shared, because this same person can come back to you 2 weeks after to say, to follow up on the discussions you have had. So this person can actually come back to you. So it is important that you remember what has been shared. And I know that some of us may not have amazing, memory. I can understand. But if you think you're that person who you don't remember things very clearly, or after some days you forget, you can take notes. And I don't mean that, you're taking notes when the person is talking. That can be weird. It can come across as being weird, but for intermittently, you can just jot something to make you remember. And so that, when the person comes back to you and revisits the issue, you would not be clueless. This also shows the person that you genuinely was interested in what they were telling you, so you remember. It gives them some comfort, and they also trust you more. Finally, in building relationships, we've talked about building relationships. We've also talked about how you can sustain these relationships. In doing all of this, let's not forget that we owe everyone a responsibility to be fair in an organization. So this means that regardless of the relationship that I might have built with team player A or team player B or team player C, if there's somebody I'm meeting new in that organization from a different department, and the person needs my help, or the person has a conflict with somebody in my team that I have built a bond with, I need to ensure that I also play fair. So we'll be talking about top 7 ways, very briefly, of how you can play fair, play well with others at work. One way to play fair is to suggest solutions to problems. Don't be that person who comes to the meeting and then you're always talking about problems. You're identifying issues. It is good to identify things that went wrong, but in discussing this, you should also propose possible solutions. People will begin to see you as someone they can come to as a solution provider, and they will begin to trust your judgment more. Another thing you should try not to do in playing fair is don't play the blame game. There's an issue in your team. Don't say it is because, Felicia, I'm sorry, you're the only one I know well. You're the only person I have seen that I know, so I'm going to keep using your name. So do not say that Felicia caused the issue, even if she did, right? It's a team effort. If you're going to discuss the issue, focus on the issue and not the person. And don't forget to come up with possible ways you can resolve that issue. Also, you need to bear in mind that your verbal and non-verbal communication should be in sync. Don't say one thing and then you're acting in a different way. So I'm telling you that, what you are doing is amazing, what you're doing is great, but in my actions towards you, is the opposite, or is just negative. Or I'm telling you in a team that, you're doing amazing, I enjoy your contribution. But when it is time to appraise you, I'm appraising you poorly. You can see there is a mismatch, because what I'm saying and what I'm doing, they're actually not in sync. So we should ensure that our verbal and non-verbal communication are in sync. Most importantly, not most importantly, but it is also important, never blindside a colleague. If there's an issue in the team and it is caused by someone, Don't go to a meeting and the person is hearing it for the first time. That is just wrong and it's unfair. Prepare that person, discuss it, and when you go to that meeting, talk about it as an issue. You're not focusing on the person. So never blindside a colleague. And do not forget to keep your commitments. If you're somebody who always, if you're always keeping your commitment, of course, people will trust you more. And whenever you can't keep your commitment, just explain people so that people understand that this is the reason why you couldn't keep your commitment. And then lastly, in whatever awards or whatever you do or whatever you achieve and people are praising you, do not forget to share credit with others. In doing this, you're ensuring that they're also being appreciated in addition to your appreciation. So do not be great alone. Try to build leaders around you. And I said lastly, okay, this is a final. Help other colleagues find their greatness. I had mentioned that in whatever you do, share with others, get others to share with you, and also maintain the relationship by ensuring repeated communication. Involve yourself in non-work activities, and go out of your way to ensure that colleagues are involved in projects in the organization. So I'm going to close out by saying thank you for your time. Thank you, Felicia. Over to you.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Linda, for all the insights you shared and the tips. I'll just do a quick recap to ensure that I got everything you said in my notes. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly. Please go ahead.
So, you talked about various things, but I just picked the ones that stood out to me, and I'm sure others will have comments to this. You talked about being an ambivert, okay? Being an introvert and being an extrovert.
Yes.
One of the things that would also help is like balancing your kind of person. In case you're working with someone who's an introvert, your extrovert person can help that person get out of being an introvert, or just help that person out of it. And then talk about engaging with people. It is very important for us to have good work relationships. If you can't engage, then there's no point working with someone, because communication is going to be zero. And then talk about sharing and contributing, not just being at the receiving end. And then the value you add also matters. You talk about nurturing relationships, and then saying what you mean and meaning what you say. You may say, oh, I appreciate the work you've done, or you've done this well, and then you go somewhere else and say another thing about the person. I think this is very important to build good relationships in a working environment. And then you talk about people are attracted to you when they know they can trust you. If you share something very personal with someone in the office, or something that is job related, and the person does something else at the end of the day, it builds distrust. It builds enmity within an office environment. So these keys are very, very important to us. We also talked about verbal and non-verbal communication being aligned. If you're saying something, it should be what you really mean, especially when it comes to cases like appraisals, cases like delegating duties to your subordinates. It should be aligned. If you mean do A, you should really mean do A. And then talk about don't blindside your colleague. Defending your subordinates. There are times that things go wrong. Every time we make mistakes and then you just want to exonerate yourself. That is not the sign of a leader. If it's the leader who's going through that, you should be able to support and help others. And then keep your commitments. If you're a leader, if you're a subordinate, whatever role you find yourself in an organization, I think it's very important to keep your commitment. So, in other words, all you've just talked about is trust is necessary, reliability, professionalism, sharing credit, not taking all the credit for yourself. So I would advise all of us to begin to share examples of when you've had to deal with someone difficult in the office. How did you resolve that issue? And then you talk about don't be great alone. A lot of us just want to take all the glory. Share it, amplify others. Let others know if you're making it, if something is successful, if you're successful in something, share with others. Let them see how they can also get to where you are. We always say sharing is caring. When you show people how you got to where you're going to, you're also making a way for yourself at the end of the day. So help others to find their own greatness. and then ensure the communication is continuously repeated. So I don't know if you have questions. I'm seeing some, positive feedback on what you have shared. So there's a question here now. It says, how do you deal with a colleague or senior or junior colleague who does not respond to mails or your calls on time? How do you handle such?
Okay. So in dealing with colleagues, can you still see my slide? In dealing with colleagues who do not respond to calls or mails on time, I have noticed that it's a cultural issue because we have a client in the IT space, and one of the managers did complain at some point that people don't respond to emails and calls on time. So that's something you need to continuously flag. You need to continuously flag the importance of timely response. In fact, in some organizations, timely response is in their KPIs. When I was in MTN, my KPI had timely response to email, and it was 24 hours. So you can help if you think that it's an issue that is not just it's not just one person, it's something you've noticed. You can propose to management that if you can incorporate it into their KPIs, or you give consistent feedback, one-on-one feedback, and you tell them the importance of timely responses to calls and emails. If I call you and you miss my call, as the moment, the next chance you get, please return my calls, because if you don't, this and this could happen. And for emails to our customers, for someone like me, I deal with a lot of clients. With myself and my colleagues, I tell them when customers or clients send emails, we need to respond within this number of hours. So if I see that an email has been sent to a colleague of mine and a response hasn't been provided, is it still within the time frame I have given them? So there should be some guidance, because sometimes people do this out of ignorance. They do not know. So you have to provide consistent feedback and tell them the importance and why they need to provide timely response.
Thank you for answering that question. Another way this can be handled is, because I know we've all had to deal with maybe a difficult boss or a difficult subordinate or someone just difficult, even at home. It could be your spouse, it could be your sister, it could be your colleague. In whatever way, I think the one mantra I tell myself is loving the unlovable. There are some people that no matter how much you love them, they just can't feel that love. They just do the opposite. You talked about taking them out for lunch, buying them or making tea for them. You've made tea for someone today, and you've thought, okay, we've been able to get by our past differences. But the next day, the person does something difficult and something you think you can't even believe that you went out with this person. So it's like the person has a double personality. Yesterday you were nice, today you were not nice. So I think one way is loving the unlovable. The person is not lovable no matter what you do. I think it will work. I'm not saying go all out and suck up to people, but I'm just saying you've made up your mind. You need work to go on. So unless you love this person, unless you move on, this work will not go on. Another thing is being the constant. Even if the person keeps going from one bad behavior to the other, you just keep being constant. And that's being professional. And that is where self-control comes in, which is emotional intelligence at the end of the day. I think we have another question here. It says, in a situation where I have a manager who wants me to report to him only, at the same time, your other managers and other bosses want you to report to them and not that manager. How do you go about this in a very new work environment? How do you handle that?
This is quite dicey, because you're in a new environment, so you want to ensure that you're building the right relationships with key people. Because I tell people, when you go into a new environment, you need to identify the influencers. Very important. In dealing with everyone, you also need to know who the influencers in that organization is, or who they are, I meant to say. So if you're in an environment and your manager wants you to report to him or her alone, only, the manager is right to request that. But at the same time, the manager has a manager. So the senior manager can ask you to report directly to him or her. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But how do you then ensure that you're not annoying your manager in this case, and you're also not annoying your manager's boss? If I was in that position, I would probably report to both.
Yeah.
Since they both are my bosses, my manager and my manager's manager, you know, I'll probably report to both. And my manager's boss isn't saying, don't report to, okay, hold on. Okay, my manager's boss isn't saying, report to me alone. He's saying, don't report directly to your manager, report to me. So he did not say, don't report to me alone. So if I'm reporting to my manager's boss, I'll report to him and I'll also report to my manager so that I can maintain both relationships. At the end of the day, when there are two, I think there's a quote that says, when there are two elephants fighting, who suffers? The grass.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be the grass at the end of the day. So that's one way I would manage it. That's my own way to manage it.
But Linda, what if it happens the other way around? You've got subordinates who, there's one who is always very diligent, very loyal, and very professional. And then you have others. How do you handle, without showing any preference for
me as the manager, how do I not show preference for?
Yes, I'm saying you have about 4 subordinates. One stands out as very professional, very responsive to your emails, and then the others are just laid back. How do you handle such without showing others that you have a preference for the one who is a performer?
So I remember when I was in MTN, and MTN, they have a culture where, apart from the departmental, there are several levels of evaluation, performance evaluation, right? The first level is the line manager and his subordinates, right? And then it goes out of that level, that HR gets involved, and then the final level is HR and management. So the HR gets involved. Then the final level is, because management will need to defend the scores that have been given. And I remember that in the meeting between the management team, I heard, probably because I was close to my manager, I did hear that people did say, why Linda every year she's having the highest appraisal score in the team? And he was like, yes, she doesn't give me headache, she's my favorite. When he did say that to me, I thought that was not the best way, because everybody has a value they are bringing to the table. Not everyone is, this may not be the right thing to say in the work environment, but like you may have heard, not everyone is book smart. Some people would do well in other areas. One of my clients did mention to me that there was somebody that I brought, and the person wasn't really the best fit. However, the person had a unique skill that they could utilize in that area, and she was utilizing his strength. So for everyone in the team, identify what their strengths are. They might not be the best in every area, right? Identify what their strengths are and encourage them, right? That you are giving appreciation to somebody who is doing great doesn't mean you're showing favoritism. No, you're actually doing that to encourage others. But in doing that, ensure that when you're speaking to others, you're also encouraging them in the areas that they are doing great. And then you're giving them constructive feedback in the areas that are not doing so great. And you're also offering to help in whatever way that you can.
Thank you. That was a perfect answer. You just mentioned constructive feedback. So I think every organization should have a culture where people can give feedback, and then whoever is receiving the feedback should be able to relate with whatever feedback has been given without being mean to whoever has given the feedback, or like retaliation, as we usually say in HR. So I think what you have said is really true. And I also wanted to add 1 or 2 things. All that we have mentioned is just about office politics. As far as I'm concerned, I don't like using the word office politics. I'd rather say whatever it is, it should be turned around to be a positive situation. So, because office politics, anything politics, kill relationships. So the best thing to do is, find a way to ensure that you bring others along, you carry others along, you communicate excellently. You mentioned something about your boss seeing you as someone who is very responsive and very diligent, but he just said it out loud. She's my favorite, without showing others that he prefers you to them. It's about communication. And it's obvious that Linda does her work well, and I'd appreciate her for it. For the rest of you, you need to, come up to this particular level on your job level. So we have another question here. The person says, what's the best way to maintain strong workplace relationship and being firm on accountability?
Okay. 3 things. Number 1, honesty. Number 2, responsibility. And the third one, I would say fairness. Now that I'm building positive relationships with people, doesn't necessarily mean that I do not expect you to take ownership of your role, or I do not expect you to pull your weight in quotes, like we say in Nigeria. That's not what it means. And positive work relationship is not the same as saying Felicia is my friend. Whatever she does, I'm going to support her. No, that's not what this is about. I expect you, even as a friend, to want me to succeed the way I want you to succeed as my friend, because I now know you better. I now understand you better. I now know the things that you want to achieve in life if I have built that type of relationship with you. So I expect you even to be the person who shows some level of accountability in everything that you do. I don't expect you as my friend in the organization. Not necessarily, let me not even use friend. I don't expect you as somebody who has a positive relationship with me in the team to be the one giving me stress, especially if you have gotten to know me. Likewise, me to you. So in being in building and sustaining that type of relationship, a positive relationship, I will be honest with you. Where you're dropping the ball, I would let you know. And I'll tell you how we can work together to improve. Areas that I think you're doing great, I would let you know. And I'll also let you know that in working for the organization, you have a responsibility to the company, not just to me. So these are the ways that I would ensure I'm being firm and there's accountability in the team. Both ways, from me and from from my team members as well.
Thank you so much, Linda, for answering that question. I'd also like to add that one also needs to learn how to manage conflict, because except there's some form of pretense, there's no way there won't be conflict. So when conflicts come up, the best thing to do is talk to people directly about issues you have with them. It's about communication. And then rather than talk about someone else about that situation that's going to complicate issues, you call that person, oh, you did this in the morning, I wasn't really happy about it. Is there a way we can do this better? Instead of just coming directly and looking mean to other people, because it's also all about perception. If someone has come to you about something once, the way you handle it matters, because the person may never come to you, may just go to somewhere else. And we're talking about building relationships without pretense, building relationships that are very professional, building relationships that help organizations make enough profit, that help organizations get to the next level. So all that you have mentioned, Linda, have been very helpful. So we're looking forward to having organizations that have less of trust within staff, that do not have suspicion in any way, or hostility or enmity. So thank you, Linda, for coming up today and for sharing those insights. Thank you, everyone, for coming. In the absence of any other question, we would have to call this a day, and we look forward to seeing you on other webinars that we have. But Linda, do you have some final words or anything to say before we?
I just want to say thank you to everyone that attended, and thank you to you, Felicia. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you to you and your team and your partners. It was such an honor to speak to everyone. So thank you until we meet again.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.